Welcome to Nurses Uncorked, where I pour out the unfiltered truth about healthcare life. I'm your host, Nurse Erica, serving up real talk straight from the front lines to your ears. Each episode, I'm uncorking conversations that matter to nurses everywhere, from the hilarious to the heartbreaking, the inspiring to the infuriating. No filters, just authentic nursing experience shared with a splash of humor and a dose of honesty. So grab your favorite beverage, put your feet up, I know they're tired, and join me as we uncork another episode of Healthcare Reality. Now let's get this shift started. Welcome to Nurses Uncorked, where I do the deep dives so you don't have to. I'm Nurse Erica, your trusted source for real talk, researched facts, and fearless advocacy in nursing. My guest this week is Nichole Jolly. She is the subject of a new movie called Faith in Flames and a registered nurse. You are not going to want to miss this episode. It is by far one of my favorite episodes that I have ever recorded. It's been a few weeks since I recorded with her, and I've been so excited. I've been telling my patrons every week, just wait till you hear this episode. She is a hero, and she is hilarious. And this is one of the most incredible stories you will ever hear. She saved countless lives during a horrific fire a few years ago. Just stay tuned. You'll see. I want to thank everyone for downloading and sharing this episode. Please don't forget to write a review and share it with friends. Patrons of the podcast get early access to episodes, patron-only episodes, Zoom parties, giveaways. Speaking of giveaways, here is the secret code for patrons only. The code is Kansas. And you'll find out why I chose that later on in this episode. So if you're a patron of the podcast, again, the secret code for upcoming giveaways is Kansas, okay? Let's do a cocktail, though, because we got to get into it. So I'm a cheap date, y'all. All I can say is this is from Grocery Outlet. And it's pink Moscato, because you know I love a Moscato. And as you can tell, I've already had some. I've had it open for a couple days. It's Amusant. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but on the back, it says that means amusing in French. So it's perfect. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back to Nurses Uncorked. I have an incredible episode for you guys today, joined by no other than Nichole Jolly. Thank you so much for being here, Nicole.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you briefly. In November 2018, the Camp Fire tore through Paradise, California, becoming the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in state history. Nichole Jolly, a trauma/OR nurse at Adventist Health Feather River Hospital, helped evacuate patients to safety before she herself attempted to escape. She eventually became trapped in her car as flames closed in, but ultimately ran through the fire and ended up surviving an ordeal that I can only assume has changed your life completely. Her story is told in the new movie, Faith in Flames, the Nichole Jolly Story, which premiered last month. And Nicole is here today to share her story with the nursing community, and also because I stalked her and made her agree to come. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it definitely did change my life. The campfire changed a lot of people's lives, and some, it took 85 people's lives that day. So it was a big deal, and it completely,
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's interesting too with our town, because I work as a nurse practitioner now, and anytime I talk to patients that have lived in Paradise before the fire, everything's before the fire or after the fire. It's kind of like our timeline now.
Yeah, I totally get the demarcation.
Mhm.
Everything that came before and since. That makes total sense. Yeah. Can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your nursing career, all that good stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. I was born and raised in Paradise, California, and I graduated Paradise High School with my husband. I met him in high school as well. And we graduated, and then right after high school, we wanted to have babies right away. So we got married and had 2 boys. And then I thought, well, okay, now I've got my babies. I want my career. So I always wanted to be a nurse. My mom's a nurse. And so it always was something that was just like, okay, babies, and then you go to school, and then you have your job. And that's the way my mom did it, and that's the way I did it. And so it kind of worked out that way. And so then became an LVN first. Then I got my RN license right after at Butte College. It's one of our local colleges, and so you graduate there with your ADN. So
Hmm.
I got my ADN, and then I decided, well, the only place to work in Paradise was at Adventist Health Feather River. So I decided might as well, stay here in town instead of travel to, the next town over, which is about 45 minutes away. So I got my first job at Adventist Health, and I decided to start out small, and I kind of worked in the OR. Then I worked in surgical units. I kind of jumped around a lot. I realized that I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about all aspects of
Yeah.
nursing. So I went from OR to surgical to I went down to the med surg floor. I tried that out for a little bit. Went over to the ER. I went into the ICU, their trauma ICU.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I kind of ended up being a float nurse, and then interesting is November 8th was actually my last day in the main hospital. I was going to go over to their cancer center and work as a cancer nurse.
I didn't know that. That was your last day scheduled at that hospital?
Yeah, November 8th
My
was the
goodness.
very last day. It was my last shift, and Karen was taking over my shift. She was coming on to day shift, and she was going to be taking over my position. So I was training her that day in surgical unit. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, dang,
Wow. The timing of
yeah,
that. Oh my
I know. It was
goodness.
so
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. And then the next day was my birthday. So November 9th is my birthday. So I know. And then
Wow.
that all happened. The fire came through, kind of
Yeah.
devastated
Can
our
you take us
lives.
back to that day on November 8th, 2018? When did you first realize that
Mhm.
something was going wrong, that this was a big deal?
Yeah, yeah. So I live right on the canyon that fire blew up on. And when I was driving to work, I got to work around 6:30 in the morning because Karen and I were gonna have breakfast in the cafeteria before we started work. And so we met early that day and then had breakfast, drank some coffee, and then we met in the break room. And the whole birthday thing that happened in the movie was real. So we had a little birthday
Okay.
thing, so which was fine, but it was also like kind of a goodbye thing too, because they knew that I was leaving and going over to the cancer center. And so, then we started noticing about 7:15 after we got report and we were starting to grab our meds out of the med room that the whole like walls and everything of the hospital were orange. And I'm like, there's like this orange glow going on. And I'm like, something is wrong. And we turn and look out the patient's windows that's looking over the canyon because our hospital is beautiful. It's right on a canyon. And so the patients all got to look out and see this canyon view and everything. And so we saw the canyon on fire and I'm like, oh my gosh. And in 2008, we also had to evacuate this hospital. So 10 years prior. So I knew seeing these flames, like this was moving quick. So immediately before the evacuation warning even went off, I told my patients, like, call your family, have them come get you right now. Like, get all your stuff. I
Wow.
started disconnecting IVs. I ended up handing them their whole medical records. At the time, we were paper charting. So
Yeah.
we had their medical records in a binder and it had all their x-rays and everything in there. And so I just handed it to him and I said, meet me down at Enloe Hospital. Here's your records and we'll get you down there as soon as we can. And I'll be
Oh
down
my
there. I'll be
gosh.
right behind you. And so then within probably 10 minutes after doing that, the evacuation warning went off in the hospital. And we had a great evacuation warning because in the 2008 fire, we were so unorganized. We had no idea how to evacuate an entire hospital and where to
You
even
learned from it.
start. Yeah, so we learned from it. And so every month since 2008, we've had fire drills and evacuation drills.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're really, really, um, really good.
Was that part of the plan to tell patients to have their families come pick them up and give them their medical record?
I knew some of the patients that I had that they were so old that they don't drive anymore. So I knew most of my patients needed to have their families come get them. So that wasn't necessarily part of like plans and stuff. I just knew these guys personally and I'm like, yeah, George, you
Yeah.
don't drive. So you need to call Patty and have her come get you. And so he was like, all right, so they're just like this our town is so small. There were like 20,000 people, but you knew 25,000 of them because you knew their families too.
Right.
It was a really, really small town. And so that was not part of the evacuation plan, but I just knew these people personally. So yeah,
Right.
getting them to get out was our biggest priority. And I knew this fire was moving so fast. You could see it moving. I mean, that's how fast it was
Oh my
moving. And
god.
so I knew it was
How
going to
long
be
did
on
it
top of us.
take
It took
to evacuate everyone?
20 minutes. 20, well, about 22 minutes.
Wow, that's it.
And
Oh my
we were
gosh. You
full.
moved
The whole
fast.
hospital was completely packed. We had high census. The ER was packed. I don't know why it was so busy that day. It was a Thursday, and so it must have been a full moon or something. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Everybody was there for some
So
reason.
I have to ask you, how did you balance your instinct to help others as a nurse with your own personal need to evacuate and get to your family?
Yeah, that was really tough because at the time I actually had 3 kids. We adopted a little girl a few years back, and so at the time, I think she was 2 or 3 years old, and then we had our 2 boys, and so my 3-year-old was in daycare. My other one was in 5th grade, and then the other one after that was in 8th grade. So I had one in
Like
daycare.
10 and 13, something
Something
like
like
that.
that, yeah, about those
Yeah.
ages, yeah, and then one was in elementary school and one was in junior high, so they were all 3 in different spots. My mom was off that day, but I knew she was not like, my mom doesn't do well in stressful situations. She's a very fluffy nurse. She likes to, like, get water and she's one of
What's a
those nurses.
fluffy nurse?
Yeah, she is. She's like, "You need me to fluff your pillow, you need me to get you ice," and she's very good about that. If
She's
you
old school.
Oh,
She's
she's
an
very
old school
old
nurse.
school, yeah. I'm like, "No, I'll get you ice chips when I'm done with my shift," and maybe,
Right,
if I
right,
remember.
right.
I have to write that stuff down because 'cause I'm like, "That's not part of my." I don't know.
Me too.
Anyways, I'm just not
Not
that
a
kind of nurse.
priority.
I'm not a fluffy nurse, and so I knew my mom was not gonna handle stress, so I was like, if I called my mom and had her go pick up my kids, she would just lose it. And I was like, that's the last
Mhm.
thing I need is my kids to see my mom freaking out. So I called my husband and he was like already an hour out of town. And
Oh
I
my gosh.
called him and I was like, hey Nick, you gotta head home. We're evacuating the hospital. And he's like, oh, the kids will be fine. They have evacuation protocols at school. It's fine. Don't worry about it. They'll figure it out. And I thought, well, I hope you're right because I couldn't leave. There was a bunch of nurses that were leaving and weren't helping to evacuate because they had their own families to deal with. And
Yeah,
which I totally
yeah,
understood, like most of them, they were their only family. They're single mothers or, they had elderly parents that they were
right.
living with. So I figured, I had to take care of my patients and they really, really needed me. And so I just kind of assumed he was going to work and the kids were going to get on a
Take
bus
care of
and
it.
yeah, so
Right.
come to find out, like, once I got off the phone with him, he actually turned around and went and picked the kids up. But that was pretty
Okay.
much one of the last times I communicated with him. I talked to him one more time after that, but I figured my kids were okay because where I had each kid, I knew these people that were watching my children, and they knew me, and like they better take care of my kids.
You
So,
knew.
and they
Yeah.
would, they totally would. They were good people. So,
So eventually, you finally start to drive home after you have taken care of all the patients at the hospital, and you
hmm
get caught in gridlock
hmm
and surrounded by flames
hmm
on the highway. And I know you've spoken about even feeling the heat of the flames. It was so close and you couldn't drive through it. Can
yeah.
you take us back to that moment when you realized that you might not even make it out alive?
Yeah, exactly. So we were in the parking lot of the hospital and all the trees in the parking lot were on fire. And I thought, man,
My
nobody
God.
told us that the whole town was on fire. We just thought it was the
No
parking
one
lot.
told you.
Nobody told us. Nobody said anything like
My
there wasn't any
gosh.
firefighters at the hospital. There wasn't any police at the hospital. So I was like, this is so weird. Where is everybody? Do they not know that there's a fire going on and just right here? Like I thought, well,
Yeah.
that's so weird because we got evacuated, but where are the firefighters? So nobody was around to tell us, like, hey, the whole town is on fire. It never
You thought it was
I
isolated to
thought it was
your area.
isolated just right there, and I thought, "Well,
Oh my
maybe they're in the canyon and they're just working on in the canyon or something, and they haven't caught up to it up here." Never in my mind would I have thought my whole town by that point was on fire and people were dying. I had no clue. So by the time I got around the corner and I was on this gridlocked road, that's when I realized this was bigger than I thought. And then that's when I realized I made a mistake and I should have gone down a different road. Karen's house was down that road that we went on, and so she wanted to go there first before we went to Enloe to go be with our patients. And so she's like, let's just go to my house. I'll grab my dog's ashes and we'll get out of here and I'll grab a few things. And so I was like, okay, no problem. I lived really far away from the hospital. So I was like, we're not going to go to my house. We'll just go to your house and then we'll go down to see our patients because I figured I was still clocked in. So I was like assuming I was
god.
still
Oh my god.
working.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, well, I'm still clocked in. So I'm working. So I never clocked out.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, so anyways, we went down this road and we just totally got trapped
We're in 2 separate cars though,
and I was
right?
following her. She
Okay.
didn't want to leave her truck in the parking lot and um
Yeah.
so I followed her down this road and that's when we just realized we made a mistake because we hit the bottom of this ravine and there was no getting through. The whole road was on fire. I've never seen asphalt burn, but asphalt can burn. And the tar caught on fire. The tires were popping everywhere, making these horrible loud
Gosh.
booming noises. It was just unreal. And everybody thought it was propane tanks blowing up, but the propane tanks they don't actually blow up. They have a safety mechanism where they just blow the propane out the top, so they make a hissing noise when they catch on fire.
Okay.
And so I was like, "Well, they're not blowing up. What is blowing up?" And then we realized it was the tires of people's cars catching on fire and blowing up. So I did not know they did that.
Didn't either.
Yeah.
That that scene in the car in the movie, was
Mhm.
that fairly accurate?
Yeah, I got hit from behind, and I got pushed off the road, and then I couldn't get my car to start after that. I think I blew a tire. I'm not quite sure because I didn't get out and inspect it. But my car started filling up with smoke, so I called my husband and I was like, "Hey, I don't even know where I am." I couldn't even think of the place where I was at, even though I knew it was Pearson Road and I've lived in this town for my whole life. I can't even tell you where I am. I'm trying to get to Enloe and I'm stuck on the side of the road. And my husband, he was like, "Well, I'm a mile away from the hospital. I can come get you. I think I know where you are." And I was like, "No, you cannot get in here." He's like, "Well, there's a big tree down." He's like, "I can't get over the tree, but I could probably get around." And I was like, "Please don't." I knew what he was going to be going in for if he came in here. And I'm like, "You're not going to
Right.
make it. And one of us has to survive for the kids." And he told me he had the kids with him. So that was a real relief for me knowing that they were safe. And I figured he'd get him because once he knew how bad this fire was, I knew my husband, he's not gonna put his family second. He's gonna put his family first. So he went and picked him up and then my son, you can hear my son in the background, my older one. He had my younger kids go with a friend down to Chico, and so they were already safe at that point. And so my older son didn't want to leave. He was like, "No, if you're going to go get mom, I'm going with you." And so my older son, Jordan, I heard him in the background and then my husband was telling me, "You need to get out and run." Because I told him my car's filling up with smoke and I can't get it to turn on. It won't turn on anymore. And he's like, "You need to go. You need to run." He's like, "I'm looking at what you're in right now." And he goes, "You're not going to make it in your car. You have to get out." And so he told me to get out of my car and run. And I could hear my son telling me to run. And so then I didn't know if I
Oh
was
my
going to
god.
make it. So I just told him I both loved him and, that I didn't know if I was gonna make it or not, but if I did, I would
You
call
said
him.
your goodbyes,
Pretty much.
essentially.
I did. I pretty much said my goodbyes and I told Jordan, "You grow up and be something amazing and make me proud." My husband was crying and I was like, "I know, it's okay. I'll be with you. Don't worry." So I got out and I ran. I ended up disconnecting the phone. And then I went up to Karen's truck and I tried to get into Karen's truck, but she had bought a new truck and the doorknobs were plastic on her truck. And so they were
Oh god.
completely melted off. So I couldn't open her door. And I'm banging on her windows and they're pitch black. And I'm like, "Is this even Karen's truck?" Because I thought Karen doesn't have tinted windows. She had regular windows on her truck, but these are tinted looking because they're completely black
Oh
in there.
gosh.
So I thought, either Karen's dead and she's in this truck and I don't want to see her body. I would just destroy me. And so I left the truck and I thought, well, Karen's not here with me anymore. She's probably gone because she's not opening. And so I left her there and ran up to the next vehicle, and Dr. McClarty was in that vehicle. And she was the one that was in the movie. I think they called her Dr. Johnson or something. I can't remember what they called her in the movie, but they portrayed that scene very well because Dr. McClarty started singing this gospel music. And I was
Yeah.
sitting in this front seat and I was like, I'm going to take my chances outside. I'm like, I don't want to die like this.
So she wanted to stay and kind of pray
Yeah, she did.
and
She wanted to stay and she was just freaking out in the car. And I'm not a person to freak out. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna die like this. I'm not gonna sit here and just wait to die. I'm not gonna sit in your car and wait to die. And I can't stand gospel music. I'm sorry if you like it. Everybody has their thing, but I'm not.
I have to tell you, when I was researching this, because I know that the movie was it's part of, I think, is it Lifetime's
It is.
faith
It is. It's
faith
their faith
series,
series.
Faith in God,
Yes.
something like that. Yeah. So I didn't know if that was really like a reflection of you, if you are, very devout, or if that was more so for the movie.
I am.
So,
I'm a Christian, and I
okay.
used to go to church when I had a really good church, but the church that I went to, their pastor passed away, and so after that I just kind of stopped going to church, and so I kind of do my own thing with God and everything, and I pray and I believe in God, and
But you weren't feeling the gospel
I was
music to
not
save you that
feeling the
day.
gospel. Nope. So I know. No.
I love it.
I'm a horrible person, I swear.
No, not at all. You fought. You ran and you fought,
I
and that
did.
is incredible.
I did. So I got out of her car. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm leaving you. I'm going to run. I'm going to see if I can get help. So I found the fire
Yeah.
truck and I jumped into that and I got John
You just
Jessen.
like ran into a
Oh,
fire truck
I
by
literally
happenstance,
ran into it.
basically.
I will tell you, the movie was absolutely 100% wrong. I did not faint twice in that movie. I never fainted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
like, great, guys. Thanks. Make me look so weak. Like, no, I did not faint at all.
They needed the drama, it
I
had to be
figured that was
extra
their
dramatic.
little Hollywood twist on it, so whatever. But I did not faint. I got to the fire truck, I got into it, and then my brain went, "Okay, I'm safe. I'm totally safe. We're good now. I'm in a
Right. You
fire
think you
truck."
might actually make it out alive at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And so then John Jessen, he was the firefighter in the truck. I think they portrayed him as like a local firefighter and all that. He was actually from Grass Valley, and so he was from an hour away from me, from a different town. That was the first time I ever met him, and he was in that truck, and he said, "Well, there's no, going to be no air support," because I was like, "Why aren't they dropping water? And we're in a big fire truck. Get out your
Yeah.
hoses. Can't you put this fire out?" You know?
Do
Yeah,
something. Do your
do
job.
something. I was so confused. And he was like, "There's not enough water in the world to put this fire out." He says, "We could be dropping airplanes full of water on this fire." He goes, "It's not gonna even make a dent." And I just thought, "Are you sure?" Because like, question everything. So
I love it.
I know. I was just like, no, like we need to try, do something. So I was kind of frustrated with the firefighters, like why? Why aren't we doing something? And then I realized that the hoses that were on the fire truck, I guess they're rated for like a really high heat. I don't remember what they said it was, but they were actually on fire. So the truck
Oh
that
my gosh.
the truck that we were in, we couldn't even use it. And it was an older truck, which he said later on when I met John Jessen after the fire, he said, "Thank goodness we were in the older truck because the older trucks are made out of steel and there's no plastic parts on them." He says the weakest link on the
Oh.
trucks are the fire hoses because they've had this cloth lining to them that were
Mhm.
supposed to be fire resistant, but they were actually on fire. It was that hot. So anyways, he said that the newer fire trucks have these little plastic pieces all over the trucks on their doors and on their gas tanks. There's these plastic pieces. And so the newer fire trucks all over town weren't even moving because they were
Mhm.
catching on fire. And so they were
Oh.
really bad. He said that the newer fire trucks are not built for the new fires that have been hitting California. And so he said, luckily we were in the older fire truck, and that's why we were able to keep moving. And so once he told us that the dozer was coming and that we were going to be saved by the dozer, which thank goodness, because it was getting really hot in that fire engine. We had these like cloths all over the windows that were supposed to help prevent the windows from breaking from the heat. And so the dozer came through and pushed all of the cars out of the way and moved them. And so we were able to turn around, and he took me back to the hospital. So I
Well,
can.
was this scene correct that when they said there's nothing, they can't get to you, there's not going to be any rescue
Yeah,
in the
that was
fire truck,
actually.
that happened?
Yeah, that happened.
You have whiplash, I assume, from, okay, I'm safe, you're in the fire truck,
hmm
I'm gonna live, to
hmm
hearing overhead on their speaker,
Yeah,
whatnot, that they can't come and get you.
Yeah, the radio, they were calling for help, and the radio said there's no air support. This is a rescue mission. We were too far in the middle of town that they couldn't get to us. If we were
Oh
on the
my god.
outskirts of town, they could have gotten to us, but we were literally in the middle of the town, and they were like, "You're in the tornado of it, and you have to hunker down. We can't do anything." And so John Jessen was
Terrifying.
on the radio just like calling for help constantly. And so I guess Joe Kennedy, he's the dozer operator, he heard the call and thought, well, I can get in there. And so he brought his big old dozer in there and got us out without
Oh my
even
god.
responding. So we had no
So
idea
he
until we
wasn't
heard
even
it.
part of the rescue mission. This was just someone that lived there that had.
No,
Is
so
that right?
Joe Kennedy was from Grass Valley too, and so he was on the same radio frequency as John Jessen because they're partners, but he was just a dozer operator for the fire
Okay.
department. And
Gotcha.
so,
Okay.
yeah, so he heard the call and he just thought, no way am I letting John Jessen go like this. Like, we're going in. So he came all the way into the middle of town and cleared the
Bless
road
him.
for us. Yeah.
Let's take a moment to hear a word from our sponsors. When you think about healthcare technology, it's often the complex machines and monitors that come to mind. But what about the everyday tools that doctors and nurses, clinicians use on a daily basis? Echo Health is redefining what's possible in patient care. Echo isn't just about building a smarter stethoscope. Their mission is to transform the way we detect and monitor heart and lung disease. They're bringing artificial intelligence, advanced listening, digital, and Bluetooth technology together to make patient care more intelligent, accurate, and even faster. Echo's digital stethoscope amplifies heart and lung sounds up to 40 times, and noise cancellation cuts out all the distractions. Unlock murmur and AFib detection powered by Echo AI, along with sound recording, sharing, and more for earlier diagnoses and seamless collaboration. Backed by millions of heart sounds and 8 FDA clearances for devices and AI algorithms, clinical studies show that those who use Echo are 2 times more likely to detect heart disease. With Echo, clinicians can hear more, see more, and know more. But beyond the technology, it's about patience, catching heart murmurs earlier, spotting respiratory issues sooner, making sure nothing is missed. Echo empowers clinicians while protecting patients. I trust Echo so much that I worked with their team to create a special offer just for our listeners. Right now, you can get up to $50 off, plus a free customizable chest piece cover at echohealth.com/uncorked. Your purchase may be HSA and FSA eligible and may even qualify for CME reimbursement. Plus, Echo guarantees that you'll detect heart and lung conditions more confidently. And if you don't, you can return it for a full refund. Go to echohealth.com/uncorked for up to $50 off, plus a free chest piece cover. That's ekohealth.com/uncorked. You get back to the hospital, and I have to tell you, this is my favorite part of the
hmm
whole movie, because you get out, and at least in the movie, I don't know, but it looks in the movie that you are clearly suffering from some smoke inhalation. You're not at your
Oh, yeah.
best, right? And you take a couple steps, and they hand you a stethoscope and say, "You're
hmm
the only nurse here, get to work," basically. And because your reaction was like, okay. And I thought, that's the most nurse thing ever. We're
Yeah.
not going to advocate for ourselves and say, I might need a minute. Hold on. No, you're just like, yeah, I've got one leg left and half a lung, but sure,
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
me go.
Exactly. It was very accurate because I dropped my stethoscope. I had it around my neck the whole time, and so I dropped it, and John Jessen picked it up, and he handed it to me, and he goes, "You're gonna need this. Look behind you." And so I looked behind me, and I could see the whole parking lot of the hospital was full of people, and some of the people were really burned. And so I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then he didn't tell me, "I think you're the only nurse here." I looked around and I go, "I'm the only nurse here. There's
Oh.
nobody else." So I was like, man. And so there ended up being a couple other nurses, and Dr. McClarty ended up showing up behind us. But Dr. McClarty, she's a fantastic surgeon and a wonderful doctor, but she doesn't work well under stress. And so, and I never knew that about her.
Is she the one that was singing the gospel
Yeah.
songs?
Oh,
Okay.
she got in
Okay.
line behind us, and so she was there at the hospital. But ICU, ER, she's a great surgeon, not a trauma surgeon, not an ICU, not an ER doctor,
In a
nothing like that.
controlled
So
environment.
she has set orders, and those are what she's used to. Not, like, hey, we have like you could lick this pill kind of a thing, or whatever. I have like a little bit of this morphine, I can give you, but she's like, "No, we need this much." And I'm like, "No, we don't have that," and so, this is what we're
Bless
gonna
her
do.
heart.
Yeah, it was. I know. It was like, "Oh, cute," I need a combat nurse now, So,
Oh my gosh.
so I just
And
told her, I'm like, I could use you over here. And so I had her like going over with the kids and stuff and keeping the kids
you kept
calm.
her busy. Oh my gosh.
I did. So,
Imagine in that situation where you could have really used a doctor, I'm sure.
yeah, I needed a combat nurse and a combat doctor, I felt like I was in war. It was like there was so
Yeah,
much going on. The patient that died really did die on us, and
right
so
there in the parking lot.
yeah, and with the only medication we had access to is I had to go into the emergency room because we were right out in front of the emergency room, and I had to get our emergency trays that are always
But
kept in
it
there.
was on
They're like,
fire. You're leaving that part out. You went back in the building that was on fire.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
minor
it's not
detail.
a little bit. It's just the roof. Wasn't the whole
Just
thing.
just the roof.
So, but
Amazing.
yeah, that happened. And so we went in there and I grabbed as many meds as I could without I was trying not to damage things too much because I thought, well, I'm gonna have to go back to work here is what I
Oh
thought,
my god.
like I don't want to damage things too bad and then have them get mad at me.
I
So
don't
I
wanna
was
get written up for any damaged equipment because God knows the hospital will hold me liable despite me
exactly.
being a hero.
Yeah, I did ruin, like, one of the cabinets. I had to pry open the cabinet, and then I ended up, so then we found this morphine, and it was for our, like, trauma cases and stuff, and so I was able to give this patient enough morphine to help her, like, pass, basically, and so that way she could pass peacefully, and I tried so hard to start an IV on her. I couldn't even get an IO on her. Her
Oh
skin
my
it
gosh.
was so bad. I've never seen anybody burn
Wow.
so bad. She was burned all the way down to her bone. And I've never done an IO where you go directly to bone. You don't have any skin, you have bone. So I ended up giving her, she had this little piece of skin like right on her shoulder. And I gave her um, a lot of morphine and basically helped put her to sleep comfortably, and she just passed right there, and the screaming stopped, which was good because the kids were really freaking out next to us. And so I was trying to get Dr. McClarty to take the kids like further away, but everything was on fire, and so we had to kind of keep everybody
Literally and
close.
figuratively.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, so we had to keep everybody kind of close, and so I had to deal with this lady dying with dignity, with trying to not freak everybody out too in the community.
That is
So
the one type of nursing I always say that I can't do is psych, but really I could do psych if I had to. But
we do
burns.
psych all the time.
And I love wounds, but I can
Mhm.
never do burns because the pain, the excruciating pain and the dressing changes that go on for hours and no matter what you give them, it's not controlled. And
Mhm.
yeah, that
It
is
was
absolutely horrific. Horrific.
it was really hard. I didn't realize how much morphine you have to give somebody to not get them to scream anymore, and so the most amount of morphine I've ever given. So
Well,
we
bless
gave
you for
yeah,
doing that and
and
not
I
letting
thought,
her suffer.
and she just she just kept looking at us like she wanted, she was done. She was like, no more. And I knew we couldn't get her out of there. Life flight wasn't coming in. There was nothing we could do. And so luckily she was able to pass without pain towards the end. But in order to keep her from looking like she passed away for the kids' sake, I was like,
Mhm.
okay. I just told her, I'm so glad you're not in pain anymore, and acting like she's sleeping. I'm like, okay, everybody quiet, she's sleeping. I wrote the time of death on her shoulder, and then I kind of put her off to the side, and I had Karen, because Karen ended up showing up right when this
Yeah,
happened.
I
So
was gonna say Karen made it out and you were reunited with her at the
yeah,
hospital, right?
I
What was
didn't
that like?
it was amazing. I didn't even realize it was Karen because I was dealing with this lady at the time passing away. And so I knew it was Karen. Like, it just didn't click to me. Hey, your friend didn't die. I was dealing with this other thing going on. And then once I wrote it down and I could take a second and actually breathe, I looked up and I'm like, oh my gosh, Karen. I'm like, I saw your face, but it didn't register to me that it was you. Like, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So once we saw each other, we literally just held on to each other and we didn't leave each other's side. We tag teamed everything that we did. We were like, okay, we are not leaving each other again. And where you go, I go. And she was like, okay. So we stayed together the rest of the day and we just started taking care of wounds and smoke inhalation. And the kids were so bored and they were so scared. And there was a whole group of kids that I was like, you know what? I know this is really bad, but we have a really cool gift shop in the hospital. And I thought, there's some toys in there that I've always wanted. I'm like, let's go steal all the
Did
toys
you
out of
go
the gift
back in the
shop.
burning hospital to the
Go get toys for the kids.
You are crazy and also a hero simultaneously.
It was so much fun. I've been wanting to take these toys out of this gift shop for so long. So I was like, these toys have been sitting here and they're way overpriced. They're like $80
Oh,
stuffed
yeah.
animals. So
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'm totally taking these. So I grabbed all the stuffed animals. I grabbed battery chargers for your phones and stuff because all of
Mhm.
our phones were dead.
Yeah.
And then I came back out and I was handing popsicles that were in the freezer in the ICU because I raided the ICU too because we needed more bandages and stuff. So I went in
The
there and then
ceiling was
I
on
was
fire, the
I was
roof, but
feeling
it's
everything.
fine. It's fine. Let me grab the popsicles on
I
my
did.
way out.
I did. I was feeling everything. I was like, yeah, we could use this. So
Ugh,
yeah, I grabbed all those things and then I came out and then me and Karen were handing out toys to the kids and the little dogs and stuff that were in the parking lot. They had these little burned pads on their feet because they were walking on the really hot concrete.
oh god, yeah.
Yeah, so we were like this one little old lady, she had her little poodle thing with her and its little legs were so burned. And so I wrapped up her little poodle's legs because she wouldn't let me touch her until I fixed her dog first. And so I was a little veterinarian at the time and then I switched over and was able to be a nurse and help
You were
her.
literally in a combat situation. You're
It
taking
was.
care of the actively dying and
Mhm.
kids and
Yeah.
pets and everything in between.
It did. It felt like combat nursing. I've never been a combat nurse. I've never been in the military, but I felt like I was in the military at that point. I was like, this was nuts. It felt like third world country nursing because it's like you're doing everything with minimal, very, very, very minimal medications and supplies. And,
Wow.
yeah, we made it work and it actually turned out to be really good. Nobody else passed away on us that day in the parking lot. We kept everybody else pretty much alive and, as best we could. Um,
How long were you there until you were
I'm pretty
rescued,
sure I was
essentially?
there for about 8 or 9 hours. So
Wow. Because you were
it
still
didn't,
clocked in.
I was still on to this day. I never clocked out. I know.
You are the most nursiest nurse ever.
I was working, man. I had a job to do. But I knew I had to stay busy because it was like when I stopped to take a breath, it
Yeah,
was
it would hit you.
reality was hitting me and I was like, nope, we're not thinking about this right now because last thing you need to do is break down when everybody's eyes are on you.
Yeah.
And I remember in nursing school, one of my teachers told me she was our palliative care nurse and she said, it's okay to cry, but don't cry harder than your patients. And so,
Yeah.
and I was
Game
like,
face.
yeah,
I'm a big believer.
yeah.
Nurses, put your game face on. Put it
Yeah,
on.
put your game face on. So I literally just went to work and I was like, this is what I do. So yeah. And I helped out as many people and as many pets as I could, and until we found out that, one of the roads was semi-safe to go down, and they said you can only go down this one road. You're going to have to have a vehicle that can jump over the power poles, because all the power poles had burned and were laying flat in the road.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
thought, I seen a power pole. Those are kind of big. Like, we need a
A big
Hummer or
truck.
something to get
Yeah.
over these. So guess what vehicle I got back into? Dr.
Uh-huh.
McClarty. And I was just like, oh man. She was fine. She was like, I can drive, I can drive. And I'm like, okay, girl. She drove like a crazy person.
She wanted
Completely. Oh yeah. She was like 100 miles an hour down this road. And I thought, I'm not gonna die of the fire. I'm gonna die of her killing me in her car. Like, she's she's so fun.
Did you
She sees this
ever
podcast. She's gonna be like, yeah,
That's okay. That's all right. You're keeping it real.
I am.
I know you said that was it 85 people lost their lives in this fire?
Hmm.
Did you
Yeah.
ever suffer from any survivor's guilt afterwards?
I did. Yeah, for a long time I had agoraphobia where I could not leave my house.
I'm not
It was
surprised.
Yeah, for about 6 months. It took
Yeah.
me a really long time just to like be at a grocery store for more than 30 minutes. I've never had any PTSD. I can be around fires, I could be around smoke. We've had a fire since then in our area. It never really bothered me. It was, for some reason, it was leaving my house. It was just knowing, am I gonna come back home? Am I gonna be able to come back here? And it was,
Right.
I don't know, that's what I dealt with. So it was the weirdest thing, and it took me a really long time to get over that. And what helped me actually get over that was I ride horses, and so
Okay.
getting out on my horse and riding my horse for miles and being away from my house on my horse, the further I got, the more healed I was. So
Interesting. Yeah.
that's
That
really what
makes
helped
sense.
me. Yeah. So I started doing endurance rides with my horse, and where I had to travel to these places, and then I would ride my horse 50 miles. And being on my horse really, really helped me. And it's what helped me heal. So
You
I think
healed
that,
yourself. My
yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Wow.
I didn't have to go to counseling, and I do still do the, before the fire and after the fire, we,
Sure.
but
That's normal.
I don't have any
Has
PTSD necessarily.
That's incredible that you don't.
Mhm.
My goodness, what you've been through. Has surviving the fire changed your perspective on nursing at all? I'm sure it has on life, but has it changed it on nursing?
Yeah, definitely. I would say after the fire, I worked at some of our local hospitals, and it wasn't the same. It was kind of like I've been wanting that, like, that small town feel again. And the hospitals that were, close to our local hospital are not small town hospitals, they're bigger hospitals. Like, I don't know, I just missed it so much. So I started doing travel nursing, and I would travel nurse to really small towns and try to get that feel back of that
Yeah.
small town feel, and where I know everybody, and I never found that again. So I decided, I'm like, nursing, I don't know, it kind of died that day, I feel like, with me. And so I never was a really good nurse after that. I felt like I was always, I don't
No.
know, I wasn't giving enough, I felt like. And so, and then what I was giving just wasn't, I
I
don't
think
know.
they portrayed that in the movie. The
Mhm.
no, I have to do more. I have to do more. I have to do more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always felt like that. Like, I just wasn't, after the fire, I never really have found my place. And so I ended up going back to school and getting my nurse practitioner
Good for
degree. Yeah,
FNP, right?
NP.
Good
And
for
I
you.
found a job working with Adventist Health at the clinic in Paradise. So I'm basically back with the same
Back.
company.
Wow,
So
full
yeah.
circle. That's
I
amazing.
know. And I get to be with my community again. So I feel like I'm back at home.
Good
So
for you.
yeah.
What was it like seeing your story, your lived trauma converted into a movie? And were you involved in any of the shaping of that story?
Not really. The screenwriter came to my house for 2 days, and she sat with my family, and we kind of went over the story, and we went over. the timeline and everything. We took her through a tour of the town, and my whole family kind of gave their story and everything. They kept very true to my story, I feel, but my husband's story wasn't true because both kids weren't with my husband. It was just one of the kids. My husband was actually not in his work truck. He was in like a quad type vehicle. He was in what's called a
Okay.
Polaris Ranger. And so he drove that into town, and my husband had actually saved a little old man who was like blind and had oxygen. He was like walking up the street or something, and the sheriff put him in my husband's vehicle and said, "Get him out of here. He needs help." And so my husband actually saved people that day, and there's so many stories like that. So it's just, like they seeing our story on a Hollywood version, I thought it was a great way to portray the town and like what we went through. But they didn't keep to our family's story very well. They kept to the Nichole Jolly story, which is what the movie was about. So, which was fine.
Right.
I didn't like that they made me pass out twice because I did not do that.
I
I'm
don't blame
still
you. I would
upset
have been
about
upset about that too.
I know. I was like, God, never passed out in
Don't
my life.
portray me as weak. I was out there
Right?
kicking butt. Yeah, I
I
get it.
was. I was like, other than that, I was like, whatever. I'm glad that the story is out there because I want the story to be told to keep our town alive because our town is, I mean, it's still dying. It's like there's businesses that come in, but then they realize that the population really isn't there, and then they get out. And so every time we lose a business, it's so sad for this town. So we had a Big Lots in town, and we were so excited to have a Big Lots because we didn't have anywhere that we could like, get cool dog beds and, things like that, like
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
things and sweaters
Yeah.
and stuff. So, but then they left, and that was really sad. And we have a Tractor Supply now, and so that's kind of cool. And we lost a grocery store, and everybody says, "Oh, we're gonna
Um,
come back. We're gonna come back." And I'm like, "You realize we're going on like year 7 now. So when?
and do
When are
you
we gonna
think
come
that
back?"
this is a result of the fire that
Yeah, because
the
the
town is
population.
suffering?
I do. The fire caused the insurance to go up, so
Mm,
people can't afford
sure.
the insurance in this town. So, and the people that are living here, our insurances have gone up astronomically. So we're
Wow.
suffering too, and a lot of people can't even hardly afford to live here anymore. So people are moving and getting
Wow.
out of here.
I didn't realize that. What was your reaction when you found out that you were going to be played by Emmy nominated Chrissy Metz from This Is Us?
Mhm.
Amazing.
Yeah. I know, she's great. I got to meet her before she took the role, and so they were like, "Well, you want to meet her?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And so
Yeah, of
so I got to
course.
meet her, and she's so sweet, and she's a great actress. And I thought, you know what? Go for it, girl. If you want to play this role, go for it. She was really nervous about playing this role because she's like,
Much
yeah, she was like, you're a different person. She's like, I don't know that I can play you. I don't
do
know that I
you
can
justice.
do your
Yeah.
justice. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, you're telling the story. That's the biggest thing. You're getting the story out there. You're keeping the
Yeah.
campfire alive. Maybe you might draw people to this town, and we might end
Yeah.
up helping,
I bet it
you
does.
know. So yeah, anything to keep the story alive. I don't care how you portray me, and it's okay. So I just want the story to stay out there, and so I don't look at it as my story. I look at it as like our town story and like what our town went through and what our population,
I mean, it's called the Nicole Jolly
I
Story.
know. I know. I know. I get messages all the time. Was that really you? And I'm like, yeah,
I think that I did that too, right?
I know
Are
you
you
did that.
the Nicole? And you said,
Are
yes, I
you?
am her.
I know. Sorry. It's good.
Was there any part in particular watching it for the first time that was difficult to see?
Yeah, definitely the part where my husband Nick was telling me to run, that felt real in that movie. And it was interesting too because I don't know if you saw in the movie, they actually played real footage of me going through the fire. That was my
They
footage.
when? I didn't see that. Where
Yeah,
was
so
that?
watch it again. It's like right before I get hit. you can actually see Chrissy Metz like recording her phone and the fire, and that's actually my footage. And so seeing that, and then like
Oh,
it really took me back. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. I forgot I filmed all that, and I sent that to them because it was so long ago when we talked about this movie. It took them years to make
yeah.
it. So, but yeah, that was really
I have to go back and
that was
watch that
hard.
part again. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that was
have
actually my
you
footage.
have you had any red carpet moments since the movie came out last month? How has it been with all this
Yeah,
attention on you?
I got to go down to LA and meet Chrissy Metz at the red carpet, and so we
Uh,
did this red carpet thing, and that was kinda cool. It was massive culture shock for me. LA was a is a different world.
it is. Southern California and Northern California are two entirely different countries, in my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah. Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
was so funny. They were like, "Oh, just dress nice but casual, you wanna look, presentable," and so I'm like, "What does presentable look like?" You know? So it's hard to be a nurse and dress up, because
We
'cause you're
have
like
lots of scrubs, and then we
we
have,
have
like,
lots of
one good pair of jeans.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, "Man, I have to get a new outfit." So, the only store that we have that's kinda fancy around here is Boot Barn, and so I went to Boot Barn and got my outfit, and then they were
Oh
like,
my
"Oh,
gosh.
where'd you get your outfit?" And I was like, "Boot Barn," and they were like, "You can get clothes there?" And I was like, "Oh, you guys are not my people, man." It was interesting, but, it was a really unique experience, and my son got to experience it with me, and so it was kinda cool. I was like, "See, there's a whole different world out here, Logan."
Oh, and
So,
deserve everything that you've done.
thank you. Yeah, it was
Um,
it
Now for your enema of the week.
this week's Enema Award is brought to you by Happy Bum Co., a leader in at-home enema solutions. As a registered nurse, I've seen firsthand how gut health can make or break someone's overall well-being. And honestly, most of us don't give it nearly enough attention. That's why I was so intrigued when I came across Happy Bum Co. Now I know the word enema might sound intimidating, maybe even a little embarrassing or awkward. But let me tell you, supporting your gut and detoxing your body does not have to be scary. Happy Bum Co. makes at home enemas simple, safe, and actually kind of empowering. What sets them apart is their kits are designed with medical quality standards, but with ease of use for everyday people. Whether you're dealing with constipation or wanting to support liver health, or just interested in cleansing as part of your wellness routine. Their tools make it accessible. And from a nursing perspective, I appreciate that they prioritize safety, education, and comfort. Your gut health, it's really like your second brain. When it's not happy, the rest of your body feels it. But when you support it, you feel lighter, clearer, and more energized. So if you've been curious about taking better care of your gut, check out Happy Bum Co. It's a gentle, natural way to support your body right from the comfort of your own home. You can learn more at happybumco.com and make sure you use promo code Nurses Uncorked for 15% savings off of your first bundle. The Enema of the Week award goes to the Kansas Board of Nursing. If you know, you know. Let me tell you guys, this has been the most entertaining, liberating, inspiring thing that I have been following recently because the House Select Committee on Government Oversight is basically investigating, dare I say, grilling every member of the Kansas Board of Nursing. There have so far been 2 different full days, I'm talking 8-hour days, dedicated to grilling them. And with a lot of testimony from nurses that have essentially been allegedly wronged by the Board of Nursing. You may have seen a video I did recently with a nurse practitioner there. They tried to take her license and said she was practicing without a license because she didn't renew her license, but she wasn't working at the time. Her husband had cancer. She wasn't working. She thought she submitted it. She failed to make the payment. But again, wasn't treating any patients, no charges under her NPI number during the time frame, nothing, right? But somehow the Board of Nursing found out that she was giving occasionally talks on dementia because that's her area of expertise at different senior centers or conferences, not even getting paid. Okay. And they said that was practicing without a license. When we all know nurses and NPs, we educate people all day long, right? So she's going to be on an upcoming episode of Nurses Uncorked. And oh my gosh, let me tell you, you're not going to want to miss that episode because it's so much worse than you can even Imagine, there's so much more to it. But these committee hearings are the most entertaining thing ever. There was one on July 29th, one on September 8th. My gosh, the horror stories from countless nurses will just make you cry. Like, their lives have been decimated by the Board of Nursing. There was one story where a nurse was retaliated against at work by her CNO, was terminated, and then she wanted to leave, and the CNO says, "You don't want to do this." She didn't have a patient assignment, mind you. I think she was in an admin. Okay. Said, "You don't want to do that. That's patient abandonment." And she said, "No, it's not. Like, if I need to go if you're going to fire me." And then the CNO says, "You really don't want to do that. I'm the president of the Kansas Board of Nursing, and I'll show you the statutes. That's patient abandonment." She didn't even know her CNO was on the board, let alone the president. Absolutely threatening her. These committee members are pissed. They are pissed. And it's the best thing I've ever seen. They are scrutinizing every little thing, from their expenses, their spending, their technology, everything. And I think after the first session at the end of July, I think they were blindsided, the Board of Nursing, because now they've come back, some of them, with an attitude, and that is a mistake. I think they're feeling like it's a witch hunt against them. Maybe it is, kind of, but that's called karma. Look at what you've done to countless nurses over the years. You're only now experiencing what you have done to them. So if you want some entertainment, it's a lot to listen to, but I'm telling you, I never got bored and tuned out. It is so, so good. I will see if I can include the links. It's on YouTube to the two different committee days, the hearings, because all I know is Kansas Board of Nursing, you are so deserving of the Enema Award of the Week. What lessons do you think emergency responders, nurses, and communities should take from the campfire? Should we be doing something more with disaster preparedness? Any
Yeah,
advice?
actually, our town has learned that we need an early evacuation warning through our whole town. So we have now, and I believe Lahaina has this too, Hawaii. So they have like a PA system through the town, and it's an overhead like siren system. And so our town, we just got it put in. It has some flaws. They're working on it, but they're taking feedback really well. So they have this like early warning system, and every month on the 12th, I think it is, at noon. It's like the 12:12. They do the siren, they test the sirens, and then they talk through the sirens so you can hear it. Well, nobody can hear it when they're in a building, and
Oh,
nobody can
no.
hear it when they're in the home. And we still have a really big elderly population in this town, so hearing aids
Yeah.
are an issue. So they're working on how to get the voice to be better heard, but it's a good start. I'm totally
Yeah.
appreciative that they're doing that. And then the evacuation routes in our town are a little bit more labeled now. So people are starting to follow those a little bit better. So I would recommend, if anybody lives in a town where you have one way in, one way out, know some alternate routes, whether or not it's a
Yes.
dirt road, what it is. Know your alternate
Absolutely.
routes, how to get out
That
of there.
isn't the freeway where you're going to get
Yeah,
stuck. Yeah.
exactly. Know those back roads. Start getting familiar with those back roads, because one day you're going to use them. And that's how my husband got my family out of here, was we used the alternate routes. So he didn't have to get stuck behind traffic, because that's how people died, where they were stuck in the traffic and they couldn't move.
That is actually very valuable advice.
Yeah. Our hospital did a really cool thing too. They used the PA system overhead, and they were telling us where to evacuate, what roads to use. And
That's
so in the
good.
hospital, that was really beneficial, because we were so focused on just getting IVs out, stopping medications, giving medical records, picking up all the belongings, making sure everybody was out of the bathroom, evacuating
Yeah.
the hospital. We weren't really thinking, where do we go from here now? And so when the PA person was over the PA system telling us, hey, listen, Pearson, I wish they would have said that, but they didn't. But they were like, don't go north on Pence Road. There's a big tree blocking it. Go south on Pence Road. And then they were telling us, evacuate all your patients to the emergency room. We're using the emergency room lobby as a holding station, because it was the furthest area away from the fire. And so that's how we evacuated our patients within 22 minutes,
Yeah.
because
That's
the PA,
incredible. 22 minutes.
yeah, and we
My
had
God.
80 patients in the hospital, which is we have a small hospital, but with
But
80
still,
patients,
yeah.
yeah. And
These
we
are
had very
confused and maybe not ambulatory, slow moving. I mean,
absolutely.
that's impressive,
Yeah.
impressive.
It
Wow.
was, and I contributed to our training once a month. We had evacuation and fire training. And yeah, every time you have one of those, you're like, oh my gosh, this again, you know?
Yeah.
But man, we took it serious because in 2008 we had the fire, we had to evacuate. So we really, really worked as a team. Like, okay, if this ever happens and you're on my team, this is what we're doing. So we worked really hard to make sure that we knew what to do when the time came. And so when the time came, we were a well-oiled machine. We knew exactly what to do. So I suggest all nurses really take those training serious because you never know when you're going to need it. So
And take the FEMA training if you get a chance. I have my FEMA certification. That is
oh
really
gosh,
valuable
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Get as much training. I love training. And I thought, you know what? If it's paid for and it's
Yeah.
available at work, it kind
Do
of
it.
breaks up the monotony of nursing. I loved training, so I did
Me too.
all the trainings. So
Yeah.
I would highly suggest nurses really take the training seriously.
I agree. Looking back now, do you see yourself more as a survivor, a fighter, or a nurse that refused to give up?
I'm I'm too stubborn to die. Nothing's gonna kill me. So
Clearly,
I'm
because you should have
yeah.
died like 3 times if the movie is accurate.
Pretty much, yeah, I should have.
Yeah.
That was for sure. There's really I'm like, I don't know. I don't contribute it to anything other than I'm just so stubborn. I'm like, I'm nothing's gonna kill me, man. I'm gonna live to 100, I swear. And so I just stayed work focused and I stayed stubborn and I would say I'm definitely a fighter for
What's next for you? I know you got your FNP, and you're
yeah.
starting a new journey. Have you thought about
Mhm.
writing a book about all of this?
I know. Everybody asks me to. I just don't have enough time. If somebody wants to write one for me,
Yeah.
I'll sign it.
Yeah, I know how you feel. I've been struggling with that for years as well. It's a
Yeah,
commitment.
it's a huge commitment. My cousin's actually a writer, and so she was like, "I could write it for you," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll let you
Yeah.
keep the proceeds. I don't want any money or anything. I don't do anything for money really. So, that's not it. I want the story to stay alive, and if it motivates somebody to go, I'm this kind of person. Maybe I should be a nurse, and if it motivates you to be a nurse, like, heck yeah, then
Yeah.
I did good. So,
Well, you have beyond a motivational story. I mean, truly, truly, you're a hero. And I know
thank you.
that that probably feels weird to hear, but you are because you have done what I think not the majority of nurses would have done or handled the situation as well as you. So you
I
should
don't
be really
know.
proud of yourself
I think if you were with me, you would have just done what I did, and we would have done it together.
because we were still clocked in.
Yeah, we're so glad. We had the job to do. We were the only ones
Well,
doing it.
you guys should definitely go and check out Faith in Flames, the Nichole Jolly Story. It's on Prime and Lifetime. It debuted in July last month, but go and check it out. It's a great, great story. And I have to go and rewatch it because apparently I missed a whole part.
Yeah, yeah, it has my actual footage in it. So,
Thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story with the nursing community. It's been several years now since the fire, and I think there's a lot of nurses out there that just aren't familiar with
yeah,
your story at all. So it's important to retell it every so often. So thank
I
you,
agree.
Nicole, for
Yeah,
sharing it.
thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Nurses Uncorked, where truth flows freely and advocacy is always on tap. I'm Nurse Erica, your unfiltered, unbought, and unapologetically real voice in nursing. If you've enjoyed this episode, please send it to your friends, share it with them. And again, the code word for patrons for the giveaway is Kansas. You're going to have to listen to the patron only bonus episode this week to find out what to do with that word. And if you are interested in becoming a patron, there is a link in the show notes. You can do it for as little as $5 a month. Until next time on Nurses Uncorked.